Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mairead Fleming and I'm Managing Director of Brightwater, and I'm delighted to welcome you all here to our inaugural IT event here in such prestigious surroundings. We work with leading firms across the whole island of Ireland, and in doing so, we ascertained that there was a real need to hold a forum in which we could invite leading technology speakers to host and talk at an event like this. And we have 3 keynote speakers lined up for you later on, and you will hear more about that shortly. But as a recruitment firm, we have faced our challenges, as you can imagine, over the past few years. But it's great to see green shoots emerging now. And we can actually report a year-on-year increase in our sales of 30%. And for the IT people, the professional jobs that are coming in your space is increased by 50%. So any of you who are considering a move, it's a really good time to be thinking of doing it. And indeed, if you're looking at hiring, we can help you with that too. So please come and contact us if you are in that space. Finally, we're very proud to host this event and partner it with BCS and Sync and I, and they will be speaking with you later. And I'm now going to hand you over to our MC for the evening, who's Stephanie Mulholland, Team Leader of Brightwater. Have a fabulous evening, and thank you very much. Stephanie.
Hello everybody, I'm glad I made it up those stairs without tripping. It's really great to see so many of you this evening. But now I'd like to invite Peter McMahon, Vice Chair of BCS Belfast branch, onto the stage. And Peter's going to introduce our second presentation of the evening by Adam Thilthorpe and outline some details about the IT Professional of the Year 2012. Please welcome Peter.
Good evening. Welcome to the BCS part of tonight's presentation. I'd like to thank Brightwater and Sync and I for allowing us to be part of their evening. And it's the second event we've joined them, and the last one was a fantastic success as well. As you know, we're going to talk about the IT Professional of the Year. Just first of all to talk about our Belfast branch. Belfast branch covers all of Northern Ireland, and we run events and have done up in Derry, and we look forward to running events at other places outside of Belfast. And the events are open to both members and non-members. If you Google the BCS Belfast branch, there's a website, we have a LinkedIn page, and we have Twitter. And it's open to both members and non-members to get involved in any of the forums and discussions. At this point, I'm going to pass you over to Adam Thilthorpe. He's the Director of Professionalism in the BCS in headquarters in London, and he'll talk some more about the BCS.
Right, thanks very much. Right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about professionalism in IT. What I'm going to do, we've looked at something really quite specific. My intention is to pan back a little bit and look across the whole of the IT profession. I talk about professionalism in IT, which is not a subject that really gets people going. What I really talk about is whether or not safe is risky, and I want to try and impress upon you that actually it is, and also tell a few stories and a few anecdotes about some of the clients I work with and what the reality is, I think, both the opportunity and the threat for the IT profession going forward. I don't have a safe harbour slide. It might be a good idea. We'll see how it goes tonight, but I do want you to do everything that I say. I think that's fine. I think when it comes to lawyers, it's important to remember that you should never ask a lawyer anything. You should only ever instruct them on something. Otherwise, you will get lots of those slides popping up all over the place. Thank you for the introduction. But what I really wanted was one of those musical introductions right at the beginning, because that was really great. I'd like one of those every time I walked into any room, especially at home. That'd be marvellous. Thank you very much. If you could sort that out for me, much appreciated. The perception then of the IT profession is something like this. I don't mind that too much myself, because I think whatever Moz does is a really good idea, and I sometimes try and live my life upon those principles. However, it is quite important, because when it comes to getting talent into this profession, which I think is incredibly important, we are up against a bit of a barrier straight away. Now, geeks are becoming quite cool, which is a great phenomenon, and I welcome that. I think Wired magazine is probably one of the most successful magazine launches in the history of the UK publishing world, and I think that's to be applauded, because I think it does blend together this idea of everything that's great and cool and funky about what I think IT is, and actually what's happening in society and in the impacts and the merging and the blurring of the lines between these two things. So I think it's incredibly important. I think it's also important to understand what made IT people and what made the IT profession successful in the past isn't actually going to be the same thing that makes it successful in the future. And I'm going to argue the case that actually IT is incredibly disruptive. And your position, either in front of that technology revolution curve, if you like, whether you're in front of it, major opportunities. Whether you're behind it, major threat. And that's not just down to your skill set, but that's actually to do with the job that you do today and the company that you work for today and whether they will exist tomorrow. Now, some of you will have thought, look at that, casually throwing that piece of paper on the floor. I know, it's madness. You were a bit worried that the guy from the professional body was going to come here and tell you to join the professional body. I am. No apologies there. But I hope I'm going to do it in a slightly different way. If you look at other professions around the board table, at the top of the organisations, they are members of professional bodies. The FD is probably an accountant, member of the Chartered Accountants. Sales doesn't matter because sales really, they're the only profession where interviewing actually works, i.e. if they can't sell themselves, they're going to be hopeless selling your organisation. But the rest of them have to be qualified. CIPD, for example, if you're in HR. Accountancy, as we said. Lawyers, God bless them, as well. They're going to be qualified. Now, what we need to do, I think, as a professional body and as a profession, is raise the bar and convince people that technology is the future growth of that organisation and that business. And if they don't get this right, they're in a world of pain and trouble. The chief information officer at Visa Europe managed to get himself a position on the board by threatening to switch off all the technology in the business unless they did so, because they are a technology business. And if they were to understand this fundamental principle, they'll do a lot better tomorrow than they've done today. So what am I talking about? You're probably asking yourself. Look at that. Second time. Technology at the heart of the business then. This is, I think, is absolutely what it's about. And what I want to do is try and go out there and impress upon people that doing things the same that we've always done is actually not a very safe strategy. This is actually about doing things slightly different. This is embracing risk. This is about getting out there and doing really great things with IT, but you can only do that well if you are able to demonstrate the traits of a true professional, i.e., you know what you are talking about. You're engaged in continuous professional development. You are coming to things like this and learning about Java. You're getting at the forefront of what it is to be good and great at your job. W.H. Smith's Amazon and the incredible shrinking market share. Now, Smith saw that the internet was coming along and they decided to do not a huge amount about it, and they carried on going. And then their market share was decimated by an organisation that didn't even have a presence on the high street. I bet they'd like to go back and rewrite their internet policy. Visa, MasterCard, no other relevant threats. Now, this looks like a very traditional model. We've got 50-50 market split here. So you either do Visa or you do MasterCard. So there are no technological innovations coming along. Well, there are. It's called PayPal, and a whole plethora of things besides. Now, if one of those organisations had done PayPal quicker, they would have decimated that market, and they'd have been clear market leaders. So we can see that technology got involved, and suddenly things changed. So their reaction to that is actually, if you want to be in the innovation team in both of those organisations, you better have a background in IT, because that is the only way in. So if you want to talk about keyless payment, if you want to, cardless payments, or if you want to talk about putting microchips in people's arms and what the unintended consequences of that are as people walk past the till or are unable to pay for stuff. I mean, muggers look very, very frightening because they have big chainsaws and stuff like that. But, you know, this is really great stuff, that technology is driving the revolution in what is quite a traditional business. Cisco and the Incredible Wheelchair Hunt. I mean, this is actually a great project that I saw done in a hospital in Bristol where the technology is actually relatively simple. But understanding the behaviour, i.e. being a great IT person, is all about people and changing people's behaviour, being able to predict it and do something about it, which is really cool stuff. So nurses in hospitals tend to hoard equipment because when it comes to a crisis, a matter of life and death, they really want to be able to get hold of that equipment very, very quickly. So the best way they figured of doing that was to hide stuff where they knew they could get it and their colleagues didn't know where it was. Now, of course, that has, again, unintended consequences. Hi, Bob, you're here. I was stalling until you got here. Good man. So what happens is they're hoarding all this stuff. So come along with a telephony solution. We just put a chip in each of the bits of the equipment, and when you're needing a bit of equipment, you just phone up, pick up the phone and say wheelchair, and it tells you where the closest wheelchair is. It was incredibly successful. It changed people's behaviour within a week. So the hoarding thing stopped happening. But what did start to happen was the nurses started to leave things where they were supposed to be, because everyone trusted each other that that's the way it was going to be, because the telephony system had given them that solution. The only difficult thing about that particular project is, do you keep it running? Because now everyone's putting things where they're supposed to be, and that's a good thing. If you turn off the system, does everyone go back to hoarding it again? Now, I don't know the answer to that, but I am going to find out, because I've just reminded myself. So I want to go and find out whether they kept the system running or kept it going. But again, the great thing about this is that the success of the project, the success of the IT part, is measured purely and solely in organisational or business, if you like, outcomes. And that's been a major step change as well, I think, with people who are great at doing this IT thing. Collaborative working in booze, or how to get ahead in Colombia. Saab Miller did a really interesting project around actually embedding sort of social media type tools in their organisation. And it had a major impact on the bottom line. And again, this is very important when it comes to influencing your organisations. Always put things in financial terms. Business still talks the language of finance, and it's important that we're able to talk it too. So collaborative working all sounds really cool. Chief executives is a bit of a buzzword a couple of years ago. It certainly went all the way around public sector. We must do collaborative working. What is it? I don't know, but we must have it. So what this meant was that people were talking on chat rooms, people getting together who were on the same projects and talking to each other. What happened was it took them about 2 years, start to finish, to build a big brewery. And they're building a big brewery in Vietnam. And they got the team that was about to start building a brewery in Colombia to talk to them. They learnt lessons together so that when they came to actually start and build the brewery in Colombia, it took a lot less time. It was down to something like 14 months. Can't remember the exact timing, but it was a considerable cost reduction. But the really clever thing that the IT team did is when they went to report back on collaborative working, they said, we were quicker to market in a new continent. And that is the language of business, and that's why it was so successful. And that's what great IT people do. So I argued earlier that other people around the board are part of a professional body, they're part of a profession, it's recognised. A maturity model for a profession then is made up of these 5 steps. And where are we? I think we're somewhat organised and nearly qualified. I.e. we're not as mature as other professions, but we would expect that, wouldn't we? We haven't been around as long. You know, the Law Society's been around for 150 years or whatever it is. We've only been around, well, my organisation's only been around for 50 years, but actually, you know, the profession is still massively different to what it was, I don't know, 15 years ago. I mean, the growth and the rate of change is incredible. In fact, that 15-year ago point, I'm just having a look at my watch, you're not boring me, I'm boring you, I'm just checking I'm not taking too much time, is that 15 years ago, Y2K and all the rest of it was really beginning to get some steam, get some momentum. And I still think there are chief executives today trying to figure out whether Y2K was the wisest investment they ever made, or those lot from IT are still pulling the wool over my eyes, and I still haven't figured out which one is true. But again, if we were a trusted and respected profession, there would be no question. If an accountant signs off on the books, it is so, apart from Enron. But what we want to do is make sure that we have the same amount of respect and trust, not just in those people who run businesses, but from the public. And that is the ultimate judge as to whether or not we are a respected profession. Is whether or not people in the public see us as such, trust us as such, and also talented people want to work in this environment. I mean, I will go to do some presentations at undergraduate level and below and say, who here wants to work in IT? Answer no one, because everyone wants to work for Google. So we're part of a new economy. We really are at the forefront of some of the changes in society. But even within our profession, I was just doing a few things today. Even within our profession, things are changing. So Google, as I just mentioned, in the States, and the States is usually a good barometer for future trends. In the States, the average American spends 1 hour, 1 3/4 hour, 1 hour, 45 minutes on Google, okay? Which is quite good because that's a good catchment. So every month doing 1 hour, 45 minutes on Google. The trouble is that the same average American is actually spending 7 hours a month on Facebook. And these are nuances within our profession that are changing radically. And these behaviours, if you can get in front of them and predict them, it's of massive importance to your organisation and your careers and where you can take it. There was Pinterest. Pinterest was suddenly all over the press a few weeks ago. Why? I mean, we used that a few months ago. It was all right, whatever. So, and then Facebook goes out and buys a photography site. I mean, that was just madness. It didn't even tell the board. It didn't have to, I suppose, but there we are. But these new ways of doing business are just bubbling up. They're arriving in industries and in professions and in sectors that they haven't been envisaged in before. So one of my favourite examples is Vodafone. Vodafone might be the biggest bank in Africa. They never set out to be the biggest bank in Africa, but they might end up being the biggest bank in Africa. Because what they've done out there is they have a really good coverage with regards to 3G and what have you. And what that means is that people are able to trade on a market stall. But if you're very clever and you turn your smartphone into a point-of-sale device, now suddenly you're able to do the traditional bartering and all the rest of it, but this is an enabler. It allows you to actually take payment, pay your bills, all the rest of it through this one device, regardless of what seems like the infrastructure around you. But it doesn't destroy that environment, it actually enhances it. So there are all sorts of business models coming through now, but I think if people need to really get out there and understand the nature of these opportunities before they become threats. So what do we do at the BCS? Well, my role really is I'm slightly passionate and evangelical about the importance of the IT profession for UK PLC and also for society. So what I do is I try and make sure that this argument is being heard, and especially in government at the moment. I think the IT profession needs to be recognised. I think we need the most talented people coming into this profession. Sadly, here we are. This used to be the hub of manufacturing. The kind of ships, and it's not just the Titanic, but there's the kind of ships that were built here. We don't have a manufacturing base. We don't have natural resources anymore to generate wealth. All we're good at is innovating. All we're good is thinking about stuff, knowledge services. That's what our economy is based on these days. And that is actually what allows us to have really great and interesting careers and professions. So I think it's of utmost importance. And then it comes down to other things as well that I could scare people with. I do quite a lot of work with GCHQ, and that can get really scary and frightening too. Now, of course, there's all the big stuff about protecting your borders, but actually it's about growth, it's about UK economy, it's about making sure that we're able to provide people in an environment where it's conducive to business. There might be states out there in the sort of Asia and out that sort of way that might be able to replicate your business. Now, this isn't too scary. I don't mean like nicking sort of your national secrets, because that's something that GCHQ and everyone else has a big old fight about. This is about if you are a small business and you've got a good app development business, or you I don't know, not even technology, you make chairs, but you rely on e-commerce. They can duplicate your business, take your fundamental ideas and principles, but they will copy everything. They will copy how you answer the phone, whether or not sales sits next to marketing, whether or not IT is on the same floor or on a different floor. Okay? This is the world we live in, and therefore, again, as IT professionals, our attitude to risk and how we understand the organisation that we work for and how we apply that understanding with regards to risk and technology and exploit technology for the benefit of their business is absolutely fundamental and key as to what it means to be an IT professional. And these are the sorts of arguments I take out on the road to discuss these things. We must have standards, I think, for IT professionals. But by that, I don't mean that we're trying to limit you. I think we're trying to allow you the environment to flourish by making sure the kind of behaviours that we see in other professions are embedded. And they are making sure you know as much as you possibly can about what it is you do, as much as you possibly can about the sector within which you work, what is the competition, and that you are skilled and fit for purpose for a career which I think will be absolutely fundamental to the success of not just this country, but Europe and our relevance in future years. So that's the end of my sort of aimless ramblings and wanderings and meanderings around the IT profession. I hope I haven't bored you too much. If you'd like to take me to task on any of these things, I'm I'll be in the bar later, so that would be fun, wouldn't it? But however, we do have something important to do, which is actually to recognise, I think, IT professionalism and a particular IT professional that I know that the branch has been working on. So the last thing I would say is that the IT profession needs role models. I think it's incredibly important that we celebrate role models and we recognise role models. I've been lucky enough to meet with Mike Lynch a couple of times, who founded Autonomy, which I'm sure I don't need to tell you, and took that first UK startup, I think, that you can put it, that sort of blows some Silicon Valley companies out the water, from a garage somewhere near Cambridge to selling it, I think, for £9 billion to, I shook his hand, he was worth like lots and lots of money. So there's that, there's Warren East, who's actually revolutionised the business model as well with regards to ARM Holdings. So when we get it right, we are absolutely able to be at the forefront of this revolution and this technology agenda. I should stop talking now. I should ask Peter to come back up to present the awards.
Thanks, Adam. Lucky that Belfast Council don't own this building. You might have got fined for littering there. Okay. IT Professional of the Year, and there were 4 nominations. Nominations are Michael Robinson of Deloitte National Software Solutions Centre, Colin McGoldrick of Mill Distiller, Joanne Stewart of Atris Limited, and John Reid of Red Knight. I think being nominated is a great honour, and I think they all deserve a round of applause for being nominated. The committee spent quite a bit of time trying to find a winner, and each one deserved to be a winner. But there's one that came to fore. As an IT professional for 13 years at Microsoft and BT, he founded in Northern Ireland the only homegrown cloud security company. And we could say he may have his head in the clouds, but he has his feet firmly on the ground. And the winner is Colin McGoldrick.
Thank you. I'll say a few words. First of all, thanks very much to BCS. It's a privilege to be presented with this award. It's such a prestigious award, and you know, the BCS do quite a lot for us here in Northern Ireland, and the local branch is something that we all should take some serious time to consider becoming members of, and I'd just like to say thank you to everyone. Brightwater, thanks very much for organising such a fantastic event and bringing leading speakers here. And Adam, thank you very much for giving us a smirk or two, because that's the real face of IT. It's not about standing around drinking coffee. It's all about a little bit of fun. Getting an award is wonderful, but I'd just like to say thank you very much to all the team at Mill Distiller that has helped us get here, and particularly Donna, who's came through the longest period of time with me. So you've seen us through good times, bad times, and fantastic times. And we're in the fantastic times right now. And to all our extended contractors, some of which are here tonight, thank you very much.